I'm Beth. Thank you for joining me for this evening yoga practice. So, this practice is the third in my daily yoga series. I started by offering morning and afternoon practices, and then this practice is designed for the end of the day. If you'd like, you can put all three practices together for a longer routine. Each is also standalone. So when I say end of day, that's whatever the end of your day is. Maybe after work, after dinner, before bed, or you can really relax with this practice at any time that you want to get on the floor and be quiet and restored. So there are several components to this practice. We will start on the floor with a little bit of tuning in. We'll be in a restful posture, but also do some breath work. We'll move on to a second restful posture version of bridge or legs up the wall. And then we'll finish with relaxation pose. And when we get to relaxation pose, I will give you several options for how to relax, several different ways that you can lie in the pose. Once you're set up, I'll finish with a reading, and I'll be reading from this book by Esther Myers, Yoga and You. And I'll link to that down below. All right, so for this practice, I do recommend that you have a blanket. I have just a fleece blanket here. The nice thing about this is it has a little bit of density, some thickness to it, because we'll be using it to support our body. You don't have to have the blanket. It can help make your practice more restful. If you are using the blanket, I recommend taking it so that it's a wide rectangle, and then from the long end, rolling it up. And we'll be using this roll in different ways. So you can set that off to the side as you come down to lying on your back. We'll start where we ended the afternoon practice, which is lying on the back, either with feet apart, knees resting toward each other, or feet together, knees open away. And if you choose the second option, you can take your blanket roll, slide it right under your knees, and then when you place the soles of your feet together and open your knees apart, hopefully the blanket roll will be in a nice position to allow some support for your knees. If you'd like, close your eyes if you're comfortable with doing that. Start to draw your attention internally, inside. And start to notice your breath. We observe the breath in a passive way, so there's no need to try to change it in any way. You're simply trying to become more aware of it. And sometimes in just drawing our awareness to the breath, it starts to smooth out, to settle, perhaps to slow. But the key is that awareness, that noticing. What can help with the noticing is to take your hands, place them on the sides of your body, so I'm on my lower ribs. And as you inhale without any forcing, notice how there's movement under your hands. This is right, your ribs are protecting your lungs, and that's where we're breathing into. You might notice that movement goes out to the sides as the lungs expand, your ribs move somewhat out to the side. It can be very subtle. Our lungs are also on our back body. So as you breathe in and feel the motion of your hands out to the sides, see if you can also feel maybe a little subtle action of your lungs or the back of your body drawing toward the floor. So remember, as we're doing this, the object is not to try to alter the breath or change the breath, make it something it's not. The object is to connect our mind to our body, our observing mind that tends to be all over the place, settling it in toward one particular point of attention. and that is our breath. Know that everybody's pace and rate of breath is different. So as you take a few more breaths here, a few more moments here, take between about 3 to 5 more breaths. The exact number does not matter at all. See if you can make these last few breaths the most mindful ones, the most aware, in that your attention stays with the breath from the time the breath enters your body and expands your torso to your breath exiting the body, flowing back out. One more time like that, mindfully noticing as the breath draws in, filling your torso with air, mindfully noticing as the breath draws out. If you're not there already, take your feet, place your feet flat on the floor, knees toward the ceiling. We're going to draw the blanket roll if you're using it so that it supports under our hips. I'm going to push into my feet and simply pull it a little bit toward me. Not so much toward me that it comes into my waist. So you want it below your waistband. Really, I think of it across the top of the back of the hip or the pelvic girdle. The other way you can think about it is at the bottom of your tailbone. We have that sacrum, that triangular shaped bone, and right around there, you want it to be comfortable. Now, this can feel so comfortable here that this might be a great place for you to say, this is a supported version of bridge pose. And then I'll give you 2 other options for your legs. Again, see which one is best for you, because there is no one best pose. What feels best in your body. You can stay right here, knees bent. You can stretch both legs out long. So this is simply another version of supported bridge. You might feel more of an opening, a stretch across the hip flexor muscles. Those tend to get tight, the psoas, the iliacus. You can stay there, or you can bend your knees one at a time, drawing one knee, then the other toward your chest, and then straightening the leg any amount toward the ceiling. So this is an L pose shape, or a version of legs up the wall without the wall. But with the blanket, if the blanket is in the right place supporting your hips, it can feel so restful and relaxing. It can just allow you to let go, reverse the flow of the blood. Great if you've been on your feet a lot during the day. We're going to be here between 1 and 2 minutes. If you have longer, this is a wonderful place to rest. You can do it up against a wall. You can also do it with your knees bent and your calves resting on a chair. I've shown it that way many times. So I'm going to be quiet for about 3 more breaths. I'll count 3 of my breaths. You might take more or less, and that's fine. If your legs were in the air, begin to bend the knees. Take both feet back toward the floor. And we'll start to move toward shavasana, our final relaxation pose. As I mentioned, I will show you several different options using the blanket roll. If you already know your favorite version of shavasana, go ahead and go there. If you don't want to use the blanket, you don't have to. This is just an option for additional support. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the blanket roll and slide it down a little bit so that rather than under my hips, it comes under my knees. Many people enjoy knee support in shavasana. So this allows us to take the starfish shape of shavasana, and just as starfish come in different shapes, so do people. So your starfish might be a little bit closer, it might be wide. Take whatever version of that you like. If you want a little bit more support in your knees, you can always add another blanket, another cushion. So that's version 1. I'm going to roll up a little bit to show you the second version. This version takes the blanket roll, slides it down to the end of the mat so that the blanket becomes a support under the back of the ankles for the feet, elevating the feet just a little bit. This is another nice version for a more passive or gentle elevation of the feet, a little different from when we had the legs all the way up. And then I'll show you a few more with a little bit more option for opening the upper body. So if you'd like to open the upper body, you can take your blanket roll toward the top of your mat, placing it where it would land for being just behind your shoulder blades. So the blanket comes behind my shoulder blades, and the tops of my shoulders actually come down toward the floor. So your arms are above the blanket roll. Usually a T position works pretty well for the arms. The legs can still open up a bit with the feet dropping apart. And then the last version, and this is the one that I really enjoy for my own personal practice, is to take the blanket vertical to your mat. It's going to be a support for your spine. So you draw it down so it's right at the base of your spine. You lie your spine over it, and I like to take the top edge and fold it under my head a little bit so that my chin comes a little closer to my chest. My legs drop open. My arms open up. This version just feels so comfortable and relaxing for me. If you choose to put the blanket under your head only, I would recommend that you have this same little elevation that the chin comes closer to the chest so that your chin is not dropped back. That is more energizing to open up the neck that way. Having the chin toward the chest, the body tends to find that much more relaxing. So take a few more moments to find your comfort in your pose. I'm going to come up to seated. Certainly wiggle around, adjust anything that needs to be adjusted. The relaxation works best when it is comfortable. So you want to get to the place where you can settle your body and allow your body to become more quiet. And then once your body starts to become quiet, your mind can start to become quiet as well. So this reading from the book Yoga and You by Esther Myers, this comes from chapter 5, and that's the chapter on deep relaxation, letting go, which I thought was appropriate for this practice. Starts on page 53. We are all familiar with the way that our bodies harden and tense when we are under stress, but we are less accustomed to the experience of easing and undoing. Deep relaxation teaches us quietness and surrender and gives us an experience of being completely supported. We can see and feel our breath and become aware of the power of our attention. We discover the release that takes place spontaneously in our bodies when we are still and attentive. Notice that your muscles soften and lengthen as they relax, and that this relaxation can radiate through your body. As you relax, you will feel heavier and more in contact with the floor. These sensations increase with time. You may think that eventually you will reach a point of complete relaxation from which there is no further release. In fact, the quieter you become and the longer you practice, the more you will be able to go on releasing further and further with your breath. Deep relaxation brings you in contact with the back of your body and gives you the experience of being completely supported from the back. Passive breathing, which you learn in deep relaxation, is the foundation of all the poses. If your breathing is strained or stressed at any time, it is telling you that there is strain or undue force in the pose. Deep relaxation is an orientation to your entire practice. It is not simply a way of resting or a counterbalance to more active poses. It brings you the passive release, which is at the core of the work. It is a benchmark that shows us what it means to release with gravity, what passive breath feels like. We see in deep relaxation that our bodies do release spontaneously and without effort on our part. Deep relaxation shows us that something really can and does happen when we become quiet and surrender. There is a tremendous simplicity, integration, and wholeness to the pose. So take a few more moments in that place of surrender, in that place of passive breathing, trusting your body to release into the relaxation. If you are in a good place and you have longer to rest, definitely take that time, allow that for your body. If you did this practice this time by itself and next time you want to practice longer and do the morning and the afternoon practices first, I will link to those right up here so you can try both of those. Thank you so much for practicing with me. I hope that you found this helpful. I hope that it was restorative for you and that it will allow you to have a good evening and a good night.